In this video, I will demonstrate slot milling. The slot mill toolpath allows Mastercam to efficiently machine O'Brown slots. These are slots that consist of two straight lines and two 180-degree arcs at the ends. Select Toolpaths, Circle Paths, Slot Mill. If a prompt appears, enter new NC name, select the OK button to accept the default name. When the chaining dialog box appears, ensure that chain is enabled. Now, select the following chain as shown. Once the entity has been selected, choose the OK button to exit the chaining dialog box. Now in the toolpath type page, choose the slot mill icon. Mastercam updates these pages as you modify them and then marks them in the tree view list with a green check mark. Pages that are not changed are marked with a red circle and slash. We will now choose the 1/8 flat end mill and set the tool parameters. To do this, select Tool from the tree view list as shown. Click on the Select Library Tool button and then choose the Filter button. From here, select the None button and then under Tool Types, choose the flat end mill icon. Under Tool Diameter, pick Equal and input a value of 0.125 as shown. Once complete, select the OK button to exit the tool list filter. In the tool selection dialog box, you should now only see a 1/8 flat end mill. Select the 1/8 flat end mill in the tool selection page and then choose the OK button. Your tool will appear as shown. I will now take a brief moment to explain a few of the parameters on this page. The feed rate, plunge rate, retract rate, and spindle speed are based on the tool definition as set in the tool settings. You may change these values as per your part materials and tools. In the comment field, enter a comment to help identify the toolpath in the Operations Manager. For this example, input the following comment as shown. Once complete, select the cut parameters. Make the following changes as shown. Ensure that the amount to leave on both the stock and walls is set to 0. I will now take a brief moment to explain these parameters. Compensation type allows you to choose how you want to handle cutter compensation. Computer sets Mastercam to compute the compensated toolpath and does not output control codes for compensation. Entry exit arc sweep sets the included angle of each entry and exit arc. If the entry exit arc sweep is less than 180 degrees, the system applies an entry exit line. Perpendicular entry enters the toolpath perpendicular to the first tool move. Once complete, choose Rough Finish and make the necessary changes. Ensure that ramp entry is enabled with a plunge angle of 3. I will now explain some of the parameters found on this page. Ramp entry creates a smoother entry motion rather than plunging directly. Plunge angle sets the angle of descent for the entry move and determines the pitch. A smaller plunge angle means that the entry move takes longer to descend in the Z-axis. A recommended angle is between 3 and 5 degrees. Output arc moves writes the entry helix to the NCI file as arcs. Using this option can create shorter NC files. If you turn off this option, the helix breaks into linear segments in the NCI file. Roughing step over sets the distance between cutting passes in the X and Y axis. Enter a percentage of the tool diameter or a distance. Finish passes allows you to set the finish cuts for the tool path. This number multiplied by the finish spacing value equals the total amount of stock cut by the finish passes. Setting the number of finish cuts to 0 creates no finish cuts. And finally, when Keep Tool Down is enabled, it does not allow the tool to retract between multi-passes. Once the parameters have been set, choose Depth Cuts. Enable this option and input a max rough step of 0.1. Ensure that the number of finish cuts is 0 with a finish step of 0.05. Finally, ensure that Keep Tool Down is enabled. Once complete, select Breakthrough from the Tree View list. Ensure that this option is enabled and input a breakthrough amount of 0.1 as shown. Breakthrough allows you to specify an amount that the tool will completely cut through the material by. This value is always a positive number. You can now choose the linking parameters. Ensure that clearance is enabled with an absolute value of 2. Also, ensure that retract is enabled with an absolute value of 0.25. Next, your feed plane should be an incremental value of 0.1, and your top of stock should be an absolute value of 0. Finally, ensure that the depth is an absolute value of negative 0.125. I will now take a brief moment to explain a few of these parameters. Clearance sets the height at which the tool moves to and from the part. Retract sets the height that the tool moves up to before the next tool pass. Feed plane sets the height that the tool rapids to before changing to the plunge rate to enter the part. Top of stock sets the height of the material in the Z-axis. And finally, depth determines the final machining depth that the tool descends into the stock. Once the parameters have been adjusted, select the OK button to exit the slot mill parameters. I will now show you how to check your parts using Backplot and Verify. To backplot the operation we have done, select the backplot icon in the Operations Manager as shown. Backplotting shows the path the tools take to cut the part. This display lets you spot errors in the program before you machine the part. As you backplot tool paths, Mastercam displays additional information such as the X, Y, and Z coordinates, the path length, the minimum and maximum coordinates, and the cycle time. It also shows any collisions between the workpiece and the tool. Select the Backplot tab and ensure that the following settings are enabled: All Operations, Follow, and Leads. You can now select the Home tab. From here, ensure that Tool and Workpiece are enabled. You can now press the Play Simulation button to run your backplot. To view your toolpath more clearly, select the Isometric View and Fit icon. Your toolpath will appear as shown. Now we will simulate the toolpath and Verify. From the Mastercam Backplot Home, select the Verify button. Ensure that the following are enabled: Tool, Stock, and Workpiece. Verify mode shows the path the tools take to cut the part with material removal. This display lets you spot errors in the program before you machine the part. As you verify toolpaths, Mastercam displays additional information such as the X, Y, and Z coordinates, the path length, the minimum and maximum coordinates, and the cycle time. It also shows any collisions between the workpiece and the tool. You can now select the Play Simulation button to verify your part. Your part will appear as shown. You can now exit Verify.